Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, fellow history lovers. It's that time again. Welcome to Sunday Night History Chat. My name is Michael C. Hardy. Welcome to my library, which is in absolute disarray this evening. I know it doesn't look like that because I haven't done anything behind me, but I've been working on new bookcases, and I've got two or three going in over there. And so we pulled all the books off the old cases and they're spread across this room. And we've got two of the three new cases up right now and a few books going in that area. I hope everybody is maybe in a little bit more cohesive moment than we are here. Miss Elizabeth says hi. She's waving at y'all. You can't see her, but I hope everybody is doing really, really good. We'll hang out here for a couple minutes, see who wants to join us. We'll chat for a few minutes and maybe answer a question or three or whatever it is that we can do. If you're popping in for the first time, drop a note. Tell me where you're watching from. Love to see those. And it's amazing that, I've met so many of y'all over the years and I know where you live. And it's just really cool. And a few of you, Bobby Joe Goodson, we have never met, but who knows? I may get to Arkansas one day soon. It's not on my calendar, but you never know. If I get to go to the Landon Carter Haynes Grave Marker Memorial coming up on March 30th, I will actually be pretty close to Arkansas, but I don't think I will make it quite that far on that trip that night. We'll have to wait and see what happens that evening. So good evening, Jay and Adam and Mitzi and Hardy Flanagan and Ryan and Wes and Jason and Bobby Joe Goodson and Bob down in Charlotte. Hope everybody is doing really well out there. Hope it's nice on your side of the mountain, wherever your side of the mountain just happens to be at. So I spent the past 3 days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in Raleigh at the State Archives. And got up early Thursday morning and drove down there and worked from about 11 Thursday till 5. And then I was in the archives from about 9:15 to 5 on Friday. And then from about 9 to 12:20ish on Saturday. They close at 1. And then we drove home, stopped at bookstore, but drove home. It was just me on this trip. If you have read one of my books in the past, if you have General Lee's Immortals, or if you have my Toe River book, or my book on the 58th North Carolina Troops, or the 37th North Carolina Troops, or Civil War Charlotte, if you have any of those books, you have been with me in the state archives. I've just done a tremendous amount of research there over the years and have been there numerous times, and just a lot of great resources in there. So I get there on Thursday. Like I said, I pull in the parking lot about 11:15 and walk across and sign in once and sign in twice, go upstairs and sign in the second time. Because there are different facilities there in the state archive, in that building. And when I get in there in the archives room, there is not a soul in there except the one person working at the desk. And I'm like, gosh, this is kind of odd. I don't think I have ever been in the state archives in North Carolina where I didn't know someone, or there wasn't at least 2 or 3 other people in there. And then sometimes I have been in the state archives and it's like almost like a family reunion. There are 6 or 7 people in there that I know that I have met over the years. And so I wasn't there. I filled out my forms and submitted my forms for the documents that I wanted, the boxes that I wanted to look at. And then a old friend of mine came out. He used to be the military archivist there at the archives, but he's moved on to something else now. He came out of one of the back doors and we probably talked 15 or 20 minutes, probably 15 minutes. And I said, gosh, it's like really quiet in here. I mean, this is the State Archives of North Carolina. Now, it was a Thursday and it was in February. But I said, Matthew, there's like I'm like, I don't think I've ever been in here where I'm the only person. And he goes, well, it's been like this for a while. And he said that ever since they started digitizing a lot of material and putting that material online, that the attendance has dropped off drastically. Now, I love having material online, having the original documents scanned and digitized, and I can sit right here in this chair and use this computer, this this screen and this screen. Usually I've got stuff on one screen and I'm transcribing it on that screen or vice versa. I love doing that, being able to do that. That is just awesome. Um, but he said that, the archives just aren't really getting utilized a whole lot. And so there were a couple of other people who came in while I was there Thursday afternoon. I was there all day on Friday, and there were probably only 3 other people in the archives off and on throughout that day. And then Saturday, there were probably only 3 other people in the archives. And when I got done with the archives, I went downstairs and to the state library, which is 1 floor down. And there were only 2 or 3 people in there. Now it was close to closing time, and I just had one thing I wanted to look at. But I don't know. I don't that partially bothered me. That just so few people in there. That really I don't know. It just was weird that, and granted, it was a Thursday in February, a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in February, but the weather was nice. The weather wasn't nice, I wouldn't have went. And that just kind of bothered me. And I thought I would share that with y'all this evening. Now, one of those occasions when I was out waiting, you turn in your slips when you finish your stuff, and they go back in the back and bring other stuff out. And of course, I can only sit there for so long. So I got up and I was walking around and I was looking at books on the shelf because the room is lined with books. There's Law Digest, and there's the North Carolina Historical Review, and there are the North Carolina Troop books and Confederate Veteran, and I don't remember what else is all in there. Just your standard reference stuff. Like I said, the state library is 1 floor down, and they have a ton of stuff. But as I was looking at these shelves, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And I have a lot of these books, but I was like, "Look at all of these old broken books." And I actually took a couple of images. One that I shared earlier. We're going to share it again right now and talk about a couple of these old broken books. And I thought about this a lot on the way home. These are, if people are in the archives and they're doing family research or they're doing place research, and they go up to one of the archivists working there at the desk and they're like, "Hey, what do you got on this? Or what can you help me?" A lot of people come into the archives, and this happened a couple of times I was there. They don't even know where to start. And, your county history books are the great place to start. But I got to looking at this one particular shelf of books, and you can see, several of the books are, just absolutely falling apart, literally tied together, busted spines, et cetera, et cetera. And what really got me, one of the things that really got me is the age of some of these books. Now, these Black Heritage volumes are a hit and miss type thing. These were really popular back, I guess, in the 90s and 2000s, and I have several of them that, you could write a history of your family and submit it. Most of them don't have notes. It's just what Uncle George told me about the family. And those do have value, but hardcore history, not a lot of good stuff there. So I looked at a few of these. This Land of Wilkes book by Hayes was published in 1986. Ashe County's History by Fletcher was published in 1962. This Neighbor to Neighbor, actually, I think came out in 2001. I have that, and there's a good Civil War story in there about the Potter family in Watauga County. They're on the Watauga, Ashe, Johnson County line. History of Watauga County by John Preston Arthur came out in 1915. Here I Will Dwell by Nancy Alexander came out in 1956. Pfeiffer's book on Burke County is one of the newer ones. It came out in the 1970s. Horton Cooper's History of Avery County came out in 1964. Our Avery County Heritage came out in 1976. This book, The Victims, I could never find this. I don't know what that book is. And then the Kingdom of Madison book here came out in 73. This is Madison County came out in 1974. In Buncombe County by Poole. This book right here came out in 1896. This book. A History of Buncombe County is actually a really good book. Came out in 1977. History of McDowell County came out in 1976. And then the History of Old Tryon County. This first volume goes to 1936. And this book came out in 37. But then the author did something really cool. Here's a history of Rutherford County by the same author that picks up the story and goes from 1937 to 1951. I couldn't find another book after that. Do you notice a trend? Besides they're being worn, I mean, they're well loved, and I have no problem with well loved books. They've been used, and that is awesome. And I didn't look at every book on here, but there was only one book that I just gave you that was released in the past 25 years. Every single one of these other books are from 1977 or before. Well, two things about that, and this goes across many different fields of history, whether you're interested in the Civil War or the Revolutionary War or whatever you're interested in. Two thoughts about that. A lot of stuff has happened since, the History of Avery County was released by Horton Cooper in 1964, and it's not that good of a book anyway. It's 100 pages with no index and no notes. And B, our ability to research is so much better sitting here in 2024. Now, we talk about old books. I talk about old books, and there are a lot of old books I really like. And there are a lot of old books that have got some marvelous information in them. Just incredible stuff that it would be impossible to collect these days. But our ability to research here in 2024 is so much greater. We have access to all kinds of newspapers and other people's books and files that we've never had access to before, stuff that's been donated in the past 50 years to various libraries or have been brought online. So I went to a library to work on my aviation book, and I specifically went and I spent 2.5 days looking at the Office of Civilian Defense for the state of North Carolina. There were 109 boxes of papers from the World War II era, not even just the World War II, not just even the 1940s. We're talking about from 40 to 45, 1945. There were 109 boxes. Now, thankfully, Matthew that I mentioned earlier that I talked to for a while, one of his jobs when he was military archivist, he went through and he created a guide for all 109 boxes. So I was able to pull that guide up and figure out which, I can't even remember, I didn't bring those notes downstairs, which of those 25 or 30 boxes that I wanted to look at. And I went through those in 2.5 days, capturing images, because they don't really like you to make photocopies anymore, capturing all kinds of images. And most of this stuff is never used, has not been used. And so one of the newspaper or one of the letters that I found was, I live in Avery County, Mitchell County, North Carolina, named for Dr. Elisha Mitchell, same guy that Mount Mitchell is named for, highest peak in the eastern United States. The civilian defense coordinator for Mitchell County, which is next door, had written a letter to the state office wanting to know the different colors that the poles and the lights needed to be on the for markers for an emergency landing strip. Okay, see if I can actually find that letter real quick. Probably not, because I copied some stuff. I copied most of the stuff. I have this little handheld Nikon camera that I copy most of this stuff with, but a few things that I found interesting, I immediately captured and shot to different friends of mine. So this letter, written May 28th, 1942, to the state director, says, "We would like for you to advise us immediately the color telephone poles and the electric light bulbs that should be painted around an emergency landing field. We have been requested to get this information by the Carolina Light and Power Company, insomuch as plans are being laid to make an emergency landing field near our town." So I shot this note to a good friend of mine, who is kind of the Mitchell County historian, does a lot with their historical society. And I said, "Hey, have you ever heard of an emergency landing field below Spruce Pine?" I guess it was Spruce Pine. Yep, below Spruce Pine. In 1942. And he goes, "Nope, never heard of that." And so I increased our knowledge just a little bit. Once again, I demonstrated just how little we really know about history and the things in the very communities that we live in. So I'm sure he's working on that, and I'm going to work on that, and we're going to try and figure out what else we can do with that. But I was just amazed. I'll share you another picture here of part of that collection. That's not the button I want. So more of those tired old books. This is, of course, one of the early or mid biographies on Zebulon Baird Vance. This is the one by Tucker. Fessenden, I actually want this book. I may order this book. And then this Chronicles of the Pandemic is a newer book. But the Fessenden book, he was a first person to make certain types of voice radio transactions off the coast of North Carolina. And this was written by his grandson, I think. I've already looked into purchasing that book. So it's cool that so many of these books are out there and they're being used and they're well loved. But at the same time, we need to be generating new books for people when we can pick up this story. I've asked many times, wherever you live, how is the history of the community that you live in? And I've asked you about how is the history of the community, how is the Civil War history of the community you live in? We need to really be supporting people who are writing this type of stuff, no matter what community they are in, by buying books, by hey, I've got a PayPal donation button on my blog and on my website. Drop me $1 or $2. But we need to be getting these people information, family stories, family letters, whatever, because we need to be telling these stories. And there's not enough people out there doing this. Hate to tell you that. My typical song and dance, I'll leave that right there where it is. Found another really cool picture for my North Carolina friends on here this evening. Let me get the backstory on this before I share it with you. This is cool for a couple of different reasons. Let's rotate this. So this first class of nurses' aides, January, I think, 1943, from Cabarrus Hospital in Concord, North Carolina. So that story in itself is pretty cool, but check out this image right here. So, cool thing about this image, of course, you have all of these beautiful young ladies who have been trained to be nurses, aides, to contribute to the war effort. Um, a lot of part of civilian defense and everything. But the coolest thing about this picture is this is in the DAR room at the museum. You see the DAR plaque right here. You see the United Confederate Veterans banner up here. There's United States flag right there. There's a Confederate flag right there. I don't know what flag that is. Cabarrus flag. I haven't worked on this very much. There's another plaque here. There's a plaque here. I just found both that image and the background image. Just really fascinating stuff. So I wonder if the people in Concord even know that picture exists. We'll have to share. Another thing I looked at while I was down there, I had found this on that finding aid, but in the 1940s, the FBI contacted the state director and asked the state director to contact the county civilian defense coordinators and say confidentially that we are looking for 10 upstanding citizens in each of North Carolina's 100 counties. This is probably true in Tennessee and Virginia and Kentucky and Arkansas and wherever. And we want these 10 people to be observers in their counties. And I found the list for numerous counties of the 10 people that were appointed. Unfortunately, that box of FBI files doesn't go any further. And so I'm wondering, can I contact the FBI and see, hey, I'm doing some research and, y'all ask in 1942 or 41 for 10 people to be observers, community watch, to watch their neighbors and report on any suspicious activity. Perchance, did anybody report anything? I don't know. Where do you think that question will go?
At least you're not calling in Bigfoot sightings.
Yeah, at least I'm not calling in Bigfoot sightings. I'd just be happy to know where that conversation would go, because there are so many questions out there. Just knowing that the FBI were in 40, I think it's 41. I don't have that downloaded yet. Looking for people to spy on their neighbors. That's a story in and of itself. But I wonder what they'll find. I don't know. Wonder if they'll talk to me about it. I wonder if they'll send an agent to knock on my door.
You're already on at least one.
I'm already on the list, so yeah. That's a long conversation. Yeah, Elizabeth says I'm on the list because I asked too many questions. But Jason says sometimes it's nice to see digitized, but it's better to be out and touch and physically look at those books and journals. And you are correct, Jason. I love sitting in the library because you never know what the next paper will bring. You never really do. But at the same time, Raleigh is a 8-hour round trip for me. It's amazing. Probably about 7.5-hour round trip for me. I used to do that. I used to day trip down there pre-2020 all the time. I'd jump in the car early in the morning, drive down there, do my research, turn around, drive home. And I don't know. I guess I could still do that. It just doesn't have, it's just not as appeasing as it was 5 or 10 or 20 years ago. Just not that appeasing. But I've been in archives all over, at least the eastern half of the United States, from the National Archives, UNC Chapel Hill, Duke, University of Virginia, Library of Virginia, Emory there in Atlanta, I think it is, UT in Knoxville, University of Florida in Gainesville, probably some other places. I don't remember right now. Oh, what was that one we went to in Kansas? I don't remember the name of that one. I've even been to the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library in Springfield, Illinois, doing research for a project that's still not done. Maybe we'll get to that one, back to that one here in the near future. So Adam said he purchased a 2-volume history of Moore County. If you remember or can look it up, Adam, tell me when was it published? I'm interested. Been reshelving a lot of books in most of my North Carolina non-1860 collection, most of my North Carolina 1860 collections on this bookcase. But everything else is going on those 2 cases over there. And got a lot of county histories and stuff, just not enough. Well, our friend down in Australia says that historians only cite the information that supports their work and omit the ones that doesn't. And that's true to a degree. I just finished reading the new book on Chicken Stevens, which I've got to write a review for, which should be on Emerging Civil War soon. And he does. I'm familiar with the story. Stevens was a state senator who was assassinated in, I think it was 1870, 69 or 70, up in Caswell County, probably assassinated by the Klan. And I think he does a really good job in that final chapter of throwing everybody's, this is what all of these different people from different historical and persuasions and interpretations, this is what they have to say about the story. And I think that's the way it should be. Give me the facts, then have a concluding chapter where you tell me, well, this is what so-and-so and this person say about this. This is what I think really happened. I think that's the way it should be done. Our Australia friend, you bring up a fantastic thought and question there. I was listening to a podcast on the way home, like I often do. I listen to a lot of history podcasts when I travel. Most of the people in academia today, and I'm not in academia, have no desire whatsoever to be. You had to rigorously study the historical evidence, and a lot of academics today don't do that. They rigorously study the historiography and kind of shy away from the primary source material. And some people do that. Some people do look at the primary source material. I am less interested in how people of the past 30 years have thought about or written about a subject as I am in what the primary source material says. Both have value. My scales weigh much heavier into the primary source material. That's me. Good evening, Eric Cole. Hope you're doing well. Adam says that Moore County 2 volume was published in 47. So, Adam, has there been a book that picks up the story of Moore County from 48 to 2000? Or from 50 to 2000, 1950 to 2000? I'd really be interested. You know what? I haven't looked at the Moore County book that I recall. Actually, I may have photocopied some stuff out of it. That may not be true. But you know what did they say in 47? What did they say about World War II? I'm just curious. I'm just curious about that. And we can talk about more about that later. Odd silence right there. Well, you know, David, good to see you this evening. Well, you have to use primary source material, you know, sometimes with a grain of salt, because people, you're reading somebody's opinion about a historical event, and we've talked about this many times. We can look at the Battle of Gettysburg and come away with 50,000 different opinions written by the people that were there, and you have to be careful with that, because sometimes, some people, especially larger historical figures, are writing because they know that what they're saying may get out there in the press, and they're trying to paint things certain ways. So sometimes you have to stand back and say, does this mesh with other historical primary source material, the time period? But you have to. You can't believe everything you read, even if it's a historical document. That's just one of those things. But a lot of cool stuff out there. And remember, if I ever did find the rest of those FBI files for the counties, if brother so and so is reporting on his neighbor, could be that he just doesn't like his neighbor. You have to be really, really careful with that. Interesting thoughts. So that's kind of my ramble for this evening. I've been tired all day, even though I had a nap this afternoon. I'm just dragging. That's a long journey. Well, Jason, good to see you. A lot of libraries are partially getting rid of their local and state collections, a lot of public libraries. And a lot of libraries just don't have them, period. My local county library has a room. It's their local history room. That's, how should I phrase that, Liz? It's probably about the size of your laundry room. I don't have any idea how big your laundry room is. That's probably how big it is, though. It's got what's as big as our laundry room.
Yeah.
Well, Elizabeth says it's a little bigger than that. Okay, well, it's not very big.
It's not big.
It's got 2 microfilm readers in there, and it's got 2 double-sided cases and a drawer with files, and that's our local history room. That's what it has. The county north of me, Watauga, does not have a local history room. Ashe County does. Mitchell County does not, even though they have 2 libraries. Yancey County does not. Madison County has a very small room. McDowell County is in the process of deaccessing a lot of their local history room. That has caused a great uproar on social media world. But they said they're not closing it. They're just trying to get rid of some of the stuff they really don't need to concentrate on local history. Burke County, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I will be speaking in Burke County at their public library on Monday evening at 6:00. Please come on down and join me. They have an awesome local history room and an awesome local history librarian. Caldwell County, the county one east of that, got rid of most of their collection about 10 years ago. They had some fabulous stuff in there and wouldn't even donate it to the local library. It went in the dumpster. So that's regrettable. Wilkes County has got a decent library, local history room. Actually, it's got a really good local history room. And so those are the counties right around me. And that is what they have out there. So, Jason, to the second part about an author saying in an interview that he had completed all his research online, you have heard that. I have seen that as well in some of the books that I have reviewed. You can do a lot of great stuff online. I have found some amazing stuff in libraries that I never would have accessed. There's a great story in the Civil War Charlotte book about these 2 or 3, I don't remember now, federal officers who it's the end of the war, and they are being they have been transferred from the prison at Florence, South Carolina to Charlotte. And Charlotte doesn't have a prison. They've just got this big open field with this house in it. And the federal officers don't know this. The POWs don't know this, but they're on their way to Goldsboro to be put on a boat, and shipped north. Well, these 2 or 3 federal officers decide, hey, let's get out of here. So they go to the guard and they say, hey, we need to go to Latrine. And the guard doesn't care, and he waves them on. Well, it's February 1865, and they spend 2 weeks literally in my backyard here, or front yard, backyard here in the mountains of western North Carolina, trying to get the federal lines. And they're cold and they're hungry. And finally somebody goes, they shipped all those other guys back to Goldsboro and put them on a boat and sent them north. And these guys take another week to get back down toward Charlotte, where they get picked up and put on a ship or put on a train and sent to Goldsboro and put on a boat and sent north, and they're paroled. I would not have found that story had I not been rooting around on like Net Library or Google Books or something, archive.org. And I found that story. Now, it takes a lot of hours to come up with those things. That's a fabulous story. And of course, that story absolutely made it into the book. And so that's just one of those things, good things you can find online. I'm not knocking being online, but if you're going to write military history or local history or state history, you're going to have to get out and you're going to have to go to the library and the archives, and you're going to have to dig for the stuff that's not been digitized. And there's a lot of great stuff out there. Those 109 boxes that I went to the state archives to look at the past 3 days, none of that stuff is digitized. Absolutely none of it. And so you've got to get out and do stuff like that. Well, Adam, I hate to hear that. I hope somebody takes up Moore County's case and goes from there. Brian Brinkletship wants to know if I read Chaucer. Chaucer. No, I do not, but Elizabeth does, and she will pull out our complete works, which I think are incomplete. No, it's the Fairy Queen that's incomplete. And we'll read that in the Middle English.
It's Middle English, not Old English.
So in Middle English, she'll stand there and read that. And I will listen to her. So I don't have to read it. David, you're absolutely true. If you're going to write any type of history, you have to go where they were, whether it's military or local or whatever. You have to go where those stories took place. And I often say, when I wrote the book on the 37th North Carolina and Branch Lane Brigade, there was only one battlefield that they fought out of over 35 that I had never visited. And that was the Chantilly or Ox Hill battlefield, fought September 1st of 1862. And there's nothing there. There's a park, a 5-acre park, and everything else is either housing or commercial development. And so I just didn't go to that field because the spot where Branch's brigade fought was under a housing development. But when we went to National History Day in maybe 2019, we actually went by and went to that 5-acre park. There are 2 monuments there to the 2 Union generals that were killed there at Chantilly. So I can say I've been to that field. I've now been to that field, been to every place they fought. But when I wrote those accounts, I had not gone. And I was honest about that. There's nothing to see. But I've been there now. Adam, that's sad about Lee County. I don't know, Jason. Will they ever get around to digitizing all of it? I'd like to see those FBI files from. I know I keep going back to that from the 1940s here in North Carolina. Yeah, and there are a lot of people would want to read the digitized Bigfoot FBI files, or aliens, or Roswell. I think most of that was declassified. Boy, that's really going down a rabbit trail tonight. David, when I first got started researching and writing almost 30 years ago, we would just take off and go places I wasn't even writing about. I have never written about that I can recall about the Battle of Perryville, Kentucky, but I've been to that battlefield twice. I've been to Wildcat Mountain a couple of times there in Kentucky. Been to Mill Springs. I don't think I've ever really written about that. Or Richmond, Kentucky. I've never written about Olustee. They just had their reenactment this weekend. Rather soggy, but I've been to there many times. Been to Lone Jack in Missouri, but I don't think I'll ever write anything about any regiment that fought at Lone Jack. May one day write something about Shiloh in my regimental work. But you're right. And we would get out and we would travel and we would go to these places just because they were a historic site. I have been to Constitutional Hall. I've never written anything about that time period and the work there in Philadelphia to draft these important documents, but I've been to Constitutional Hall. I've been to Kennedy Space Center, but I've never written about Kennedy Space Center. So I think it's important, and maybe one Sunday night we'll get together and talk about our favorite historic sites. We're not going to do that tonight because I'm already at 41 minutes. But you've got to get out and visit these sites. And of course, your museum and your historic sites need you desperately. They need you to volunteer. They need you to come visit. They need to know that people are interested. I've been watching this discussion right now of the new cabin they're going to build it at David Crockett Birthplace State Historic Site there in Limestone-ish, Tennessee. And just the amount of visitors that they used to have is phenomenal. 400,000 people in a year, and they don't get that these days. So we need to get out and visit these sites. Y'all, us. Adam wants to know if I've been watching the History Channel. No, I did. I didn't even know the History Channel was still on. Elizabeth, when was the last time I watched something on the History Channel? I even gave up on Oak Island like 2 years ago. So Corey wants to know about court records. And you didn't give me a time frame. You can try local, but a lot of times, a lot of those court records have been transferred over to the state archives. Start local and go from there. Court records are a little harder. I noticed in North Carolina several months ago, they released prison records from state penitentiary. And so I have not looked at any of those. I cannot help you with that. But contact the folks at the state archives. Both. Great folks for the most part to work with. Corey, just go from there and see what you can find. Andrea is still watching Oak Island. Let me know if they find anything. I may have to go back and rewatch something, but I watched it for 4 or 5 years, and I have not watched in probably the past 2 years. And, I work a lot of nights. There are a lot of nights I'm out at the park, and I'm just not here like I was there for a while. Yes, Landon Carter Haynes at the cemetery in Jackson, Tennessee, May 30th. Please come on out if you live in the western part of Tennessee. Jason, I'm thinking really hard about coming over there. It's a long ride. I know you understand long rides, but that's a really long ride. Adam, my theory about Oak Island is that a couple hundred years ago, there was a museum heist, and all the things that they didn't think had any value, they went to Oak Island and just dumped. That's why we have all these stories from all these different cultures. And of course, the History Channel is just trying to get you to continue to watch so you can support their advertisers. But yeah, that's my theory on Oak Island. It was a museum heist gone bad, and they had to dump the stuff, and that's why it's all up there, different stuff. It's what happens when you spend a lot of time on the road. You think about weird things like that. Just weird. But Landon Carter Haynes, March 30th. Once again, I will be at the Burke County I'll be at the Burke County Public Library. They put up a fabulous, right there, flyer. The folks at the library made this flyer. It looks really nice. That's me there at the fort, Jury's Bluff, in between Petersburg and Richmond, Virginia. Come on out and see me Monday, February 9th, 2024 at 6 p.m. I'll actually be in the library doing a little research for an hour or 2 or 3 before that time period, at least an hour before. Come on out. I know they're hitting hard the hidden history of the Toad River Valley, but we're going to talk about a lot of stuff and have a good time and go from there. So if you got any more questions, drop me a note this evening. Otherwise, I'm probably going to get up and reshelve some more books because there's y'all can't see this, but there are like piles of books on the floor over here. And yes, Jason, I have seen the post that Pamphlet Park is having to cut they're really open by appointment now whatsoever. I will be speaking, help me out with this date, Elizabeth, at Pamphlet Park on, is it March 23rd? Yes.
That's March 23rd.
Okay, March 23rd. They're having their breakthrough event, 159th breakthrough event. And right now I am on the schedule to speak. I don't know what time, but on March 23rd, Saturday, March 23rd. So if you are in the greater Petersburg, Virginia area, please come on out and support Pamphlet Park. The Pamphlet family is scaling back their funding because it's really tight out there for a lot of folks. Please come out and support that event. I've got Living History friends, members of the 26th and 28th North Carolina are going to be at Pamphlet Park that weekend, and I will be there on Saturday. So please come on out and hit up that event and support that park. It is phenomenal with the historic houses and the breastworks and the monument to the Branch Lane Brigade and the 2 museums on site. It's just a really cool place. Yep, friend David Pope is going to be in Chattanooga a week from Tuesday talking about General Early. So our friend Jason is going to be at Fort Stedman, doing a Living History. That is awesome. Please get out and support these events. We've got the other thing I'm doing this week. We, Lord willing, should be at the Battle for the Lost State of Franklin at Tipton Haynes State Historic Site on Saturday. Yes, I know I continue to go over there and do events over there. Even though they do not support the Landon Carter Haynes monument, tombstone, gravestone. But I mean, I'm just there to talk history. So I will take just about any opportunity I can get to get out and do that. Corey, you can try and send me a message. I actually will be gone most of this week. I just got a couple of days to work at the park and be speaking Monday night and research day on Tuesday. And camp meeting Tuesday night and dinner with a friend on Wednesday. And so, but just send me a message. Just be patient with me. There's just one of me and a lot of y'all. All right, folks. Any other questions? What did I miss, Elizabeth?
Get your thing to me, drove it tomorrow night. Great job.
All right, folks. I'll give it another second here. Oh, that's not catching up. Otherwise, I'm going to jump off here. All right, folks, thank you so much for joining me in my library. Thank you for just spending a few moments on your Sunday night here chatting history. We got some more special guests coming up in the near future, and I look forward to having them on the show here. And we will go from there and see what all trouble we can get into. Thank you so much once again for joining me. Y'all have a fantastic weekend and week, and God bless.